everyone, and welcome to DB Design and Sewing Australia. I'm Deb, and this is a video on the difference in sewing the Ash Jeans Fly, Ash Jeans by Megan Nielsen, compared with the Ginger Jean Fly, and the Ginger Jeans are by Closet Core. So the fly works out exactly the same, just different processes of doing it. My preferred way is not the Ginger Jeans way, because that way you are stitching it up then unpicking a seam. Not something I like to do. Now that is part of the Ash Jeans, but not in the front of the fly, actually in a different spot, but I don't do that. When I sew the crutch seam, I sew it permanently. So you'll see in this video that the crutch seam is open for the very start of it, and you don't sew the pockets first. You actually start directly on the fly front. So here's the video. Let me know what you think. Hi there. I said I was going to show you the difference between the Ginger Jeans fly sewing, which we've already done in the Ginger Jeans sew along, and the Ash Jeans fly. Now I'm making the Ash Jeans, and I'm making View A, which is this one, and it's called View A is a modern slim leg jean. View B is a skinny leg jean. View C is a flared jean, and View D is a wide leg jean. So what's that? Slim leg, skinny leg, flared leg, wide leg. And I'm making View A, which I have made before. I have made them in a white Japanese denim, and today I am making them in this beautiful red stretch denim that looks like it's practically orange on the screen, but it's actually beautiful red. Hopefully when I do photos later when they're finished, it will look like the colour that it really is. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm following the instructions. I know that's hard to believe, but one most important thing, like it was for the Ginger Jeans, I have stay stitched the top. You can see that. Stay stitched the top of the two fronts, the two pocket facings, not the coin pocket, and the two back yokes. So because it's stretched denim and it will be stretching in that direction, really important that it stays structured until you get the waistband on. Now there is a difference in the waistband too, because with the Ginger Jeans, the waistband is cut on the fold across the fabric, so the waistband has stretch. The Ash Jeans have got a very curved waistband, so, and they are actually cut in accordance with the straight grain, but so if your straight grain's there like that, the waistbands are actually cut out like that. So only partially will it have stretch in it. So there'll be another one where you need to run a row of stitching around so that when you get your turn up, it's perfect. But onto the fly. So the first things they tell us to do is to overlock or zigzag, if that's what you're going to use, the fronts. So I've done both fronts there like that. And to fold the fly extension in half, right sides together, stitch the bottom, then overlock the side. Now sometimes I just put them wrong sides together and just overlock the whole lot, but in the end you're making like a little pocket. This is the fly, and you overlock the outside edge. So the curved edge is overlocked off. And the first thing I want you to do is, with this fly extension, we are placing that right sides down. I've got my zip, which is an extremely good match that I bought from Jack's Stock a little while ago, because when I went they didn't have, I had some YKK zips on sale, but when I have certain colours, I just like to order them directly. So I am just lining this up. I'll just pin it in place and then I'll show you what's happening. So now I am going to sew the zip here, and it says place fly extension so that folded edge is on the right. That's my right. The finished edge is on the left. That's the overlocked. Place your zipper right side up to the left, lining up the edge. Sure the zipper stop is lined up with the notch, which is down here. And I don't take any notice of that, because at the end you can make it work. So main thing with your fly is when you're doing your top stitching, make sure you're not going to be trying to sew over the zipper stop. You're either above it or below it. Sometimes I can be either way, but I'm generally below it because I go for a shorter style zip. I think this is zip, yeah, this is a 6-inch zip. So I know that I can make that work. So our instructions are to sew that. So it says to sew it 1/4 inch or 6 mil from the edge, and this is the edge they're talking about. Now I know this will work because when I made my white ash jeans, I followed the instructions for the fly. That's how I know I've sewn it before without sewing these two front pieces together first. So I'll just sew this and then I'll come right back. Now that we've got this ready, we are going to lay this right sides down, zipper facing down, onto the right front. Just making sure which is the right side, which is the wrong side. It's not very universal over patterns, is it, that the coloured or the grayscale is the right side and that the white is the wrong side? It's different in every pattern. So you've always got to check. Same as the seam allowances. I will often, patterns I use all the time, on the outside I write down what the seam allowance is. A lot of the French patterns now have got a whole little list going on, which is fabulous, where it tells you this is the seam allowance in this section, this is a seam allowance in another section. I really like that because you can often do with a much narrower seam allowance on a collar and things like that, because you've got to cut it all off. So we are pinning this into place. So this is the right side of the jeans. Just pin this here. Oh, I'm going to stitch that down, and then we'll be flipping it out like that, and it will be the first part of our zip sewn in. Then we'll top stitch that down. So I'm just going to go and sew that, and then I'll be back. Okay, now that zip is sealed inside there, and it looks like that. So we're going to press that right up, nice and beside it, and then we're going to top stitch it. So once this is top stitched, I will be back to show you how beautiful the top stitching is on this fabric. Okay, so this zip is now top stitched in. So that's the right side of my pants, and the fly over is going to be on the left hand. Generally like men's jeans side. So the next thing we've got to do is, with this piece, this is our curved piece, this is the overlocked rounded edge, this is the other side, this is the left hand side of the pants. We're going to stitch this fly, they're just calling it the fly, and they're calling that the extension. In the Megan Nielsen ones, this is called the fly extension, and this piece is called the fly. So right sides together, we're going to be sewing this on. Sew the fly to the front using a regular foot at 1.5 centimeters. So I will just sew that on and then be back. Okay, now we've stitched this on. Stitched on. We want to probably need to clip into the seam allowance, I reckon. Some people have you clip directly across from there. Let's go slightly up a tiny bit. So we're going to turn this over. So I've pressed this open like I always do, as if you're going to do French seams. Always press it open, then press it together. I don't know why that works better, it just does. And I notice that lots of the couture books have you doing that. So there must be a method. So now it's pressed open, we're going to press it closed because we're going to, I was going to say cover stitch, we're going to top stitch this down. So we want it rolling just towards the wrong side of the jeans, but not very much. It's sort of right on the edge. Okay, so now you can see this is the fly, or what I would call a fly extension. There it is there, and we're going to top stitch this outside edge so it gets a top stitch on the outside. Okay, that's all stitched in place now. So what we've got is, we've got a crutch seam. It's got no puckers or weird lines or anything in it. And what we want to do now is, on a really nice flat surface, see because of that. This is what it says to do. What's that? Fold open the fly front so that the fly overlaps the zipper and fly extension, which is this. So I'll just pin it in place and then show you on the screen. So this is going to be our zipper. So you can see how it slightly overlaps. That stops you from getting like a gaping fly, because when you put, I mean this is only pinned, it's not sewn. When you put pressure on it, you don't want to be able to see your fly. You can often see your fly tab. but you don't want to actually be able to see that part of the fly. So they're only getting you to place it over it. I just pinned it so I could show you because that's not what we're doing. So this is what we need to do. This is your fly shield, and so your fly shield is already attached on that side, so it can't be attached on this side because when you pull the zip down, it's not going to come apart. So we need to keep that out the way. You can do that just by popping a couple of pins in it. That makes sure it does not get caught on that side, because now we're just sewing the other side of the fly. So now we're going to be sewing this zip onto the fly, or what I call a fly extension, that piece of fly, which is piece number 9, and looked like that we stitched onto the front, flipped over, top stitch down. This piece, it's a top stitch down there, we're just stitching the zip onto that and that only. So as it says, it naturally falls into place, and it really does. So when we look at if we undid this that I just pinned out the way, and we zipped up the zip, and this naturally falls over there. So when you've got this piece all lined up, you can feel, I can feel those pins in there, and it is only pinned to this fly extension. So now I'm going to sew that on. Flip the fly extension out the way. You'll see it falls naturally in position. It's most likely just over 1/4 inch from the edge of the fly, depending on the width of your fly. Pin the zipper to the fly only. Okay, so this is what they're calling the fly, which is that added on piece. This piece, number 9, is what the only thing we're pinning the second side of the zip to. Ensuring that the zipper is the same distance from the fly edge all the way down. What they mean by that is, when you're looking at a fly, and we know that this is sewn perfectly in, and see how this starts to jut out there. Well, once I've sewn it part of the way, then I'm zipping it down and pulling that over further. Pull it over a bit further now. But you need to make sure your fly is straight. That's basically what they're saying. So when I look at it open, oops, I can see that the fly is straight. They want you to make sure this distance is the same all the way down. And that's just so you don't have a crooked fly. When I pull the fly up and down when I'm sewing it, I do use these things that I still haven't worked out. Well, they're forceps basically. I do use these tools because it's going to grab hold of the zip pull just by clamping onto it. And if I need to zip it up and down, I will often leave it connected. So, not the easiest thing in the world to, I mean, it is easy if you use 2 hands. So if I'm using it a lot, I get really good at using it one-handed, but I'm not a nurse, so, or a surgeon. I'm sure they use them. The idea is, when you take your hands off it and it's clipped up, it doesn't come off. So, and quite frankly, doing jean zips with your tweezers ruins your tweezers because you're trying so hard to hold on to them, whereas these are clipped on. These are absolutely clipped on and very handy for lots of things you don't want to let go of, but you need an extra hand. It's really what they are, an extra hand. So sometimes if you cannot get your fly up, especially if, or a zip up, especially if it's being particularly difficult, as some zips are, and you have to take your needle out of the fabric. You're halfway through your zip, you've tried to zip it up, something's wrong, you've got to take the needle out of the fabric. You are best off to take the needle out of the fabric, pull back a couple of stitches, pull it through to the wrong side and tie it off so that you can start again on exactly the same line you were on. I've found that if you take your needle out of the fabric and you have to shift it a little bit out of the machine, you've pulled up your threads trying to make sure it's tight, gets a kink in it. And the last thing you want in a pair of jeans is a kink in your fly, because it's going to look straight across your stomach, then out a little bit. So we've probably all had ready-to-wear jeans that have got a fly that's weird or crooked, or there's just something about it, or it reaches a point where it's really hard to zip up. So another thing I think they're trying to tell you is try and make it as even as possible, because your fly will glide up and down much more easily if it doesn't have to get through little bits that are a bit weird. So, and never stitch it too close. If you think it's too close and it's just touching the edge of the teeth and you think it's really weird to get up in that place, pull it out to where you can just re-sew it in properly, because it'll be forever be a pain to you. So now I am going to sew this part down here. Now I have pinned it on this side, but I'm actually going to repin it so I can see the zip, because I want it to be lovely and straight. And so the way I do that is to make sure I can see the zip. And regardless of how, I might sew the first pass close to this outside edge, and then I might sew a second pass closer to the zip. Okay, so I did do 2 passes on the zip, but I didn't go ultra close to the zip. So I did 1 pass there and 1 pass there, like half a centimetre apart, just because I like a secure zip. So now we are up to the top stitching of the fly. You can see how this has all come together, and in the end it's the same. It was going to work out the same as the ginger jeans. And now what you've got to do is a top stitching, but always remembering that you need to flip this out the way. So then you can see we've got a perfectly formed zip, and it's really what your jean zip is. It's a normal zip, and it's got a little shield behind it so you don't get your undies caught in your zip, and if you don't wear undies, probably worse, caught in your zip. So now let's onto the top stitching. Now that we're up to the top stitching, the instructions want you to unpick the crutch that we basted, which was this part, which was just basted together. And then do your top stitching and then sew it back together. But I don't do that. I do my top stitching. So I still think you can get it absolutely perfect without doing that. So what you want to avoid is having at this crutch where everything meets, is having any puckered bits, any weird bits, I don't think mine's going to have that. And here's my template. So this is a template from, remember, the Last Stitch Jeans Making Toolkit. And I must admit, zipper top stitch template view 1, or version 1, probably version 1, is the one I use all the time, and I should actually be cutting it out of cardboard because it's getting, maybe I'll just staple it to a piece of cardboard and cut around it because I use it all the time, and so it would be better off if it was on cardboard. So I did go and make myself a cardboard template. A little bit easier to draw around than something made of paper. Now this is just made in pattern making card. If you wanted it to be something heavier than that, probably have to cut it out with a Stanley knife. So that will do for the time being. You can see that's going to be a beautiful fly. But what we do need to remember to do is to take that guard out of the way. Need to make sure it stays out of the way. We're just pinning that out the way. So when you're looking at your pants like this, it's going to be stitched down. You can already tell that the top stitching under the crotch, which you can't really see that much of, is going to be going over here to the left side of the pants, so this side of the pants. So when I sew this down, if it comes anywhere near that, I need to make sure that part is over there. Now when I sew it, I like to sew from the top down. I think the curve is easier from the top down. So I'm making sure that everything is correct underneath. And when I'm thinking about the template, I'm knowing that the top stitching, the line I drew, that's the outside line. And so there's 2 rows. The other row is going to be inside that line. Now that's however you want to sew it. One, I need to make sure it catches the everything in and it's all really nice and tight. You can already see from the back where all those pins are that it's easily going to catch in that, I don't call it the fly, they're calling it in this pattern. But just want to make sure everything you want caught in is caught in. So just going to top stitch 2 rows on that, and then I'll be back to show you. Okay, so the fly is in. I'm really loving the way this fabric takes top stitching. So here's a fly. Now we do need to do bar tacks, which is, so when you're doing your bar tack, you're thinking about this is how you're going to hold this fly shield down into the bottom section. I'll show you where we need to do things. You can do bar tack several different ways. You can do the little zigzag, you can just do some up and down straight stitches over each other. Remember what I said, I actually turn my work rather than going backwards. Easier to control. So I will be bar tacking here. I will be bar tacking crossways here. And then I will start stitching my legs down from here. So just up this high on the fly, where that bar tack is. So we'll do that bar tack there. If you don't do a bar tack there, you can just do some backwards and forwards stitches in the same direction that the pin's running in. And then we'll do top stitching of the crutch seam along here. Remembering that I made sure that that was going in the correct direction all of the time. Just that I didn't accidentally stitch it down to another part. Now when I made my white ones, I also didn't stitch the crutch and then take it out. Because to be honest, I don't think I stitched the crutch in the first place. I think I just stitched it like now. But it doesn't really make any difference. It doesn't make any difference to the finish. It doesn't make any difference to any of that. So I'm going to do that bar tacking. But first, as I've already done the back, just want to show you this fabric and how good it is. The top stitching that this fabric holds is absolutely beautiful. It is really, really nice. Do your top stitching, it really, I mean, I was lucky to be able to get that exact match of the top stitching thread, but really, really good top stitching on this fabric. I don't think I've ever had any problem with top stitching on fabric with that Embosel machine because it's so good at getting over hard areas. For instance, when you're talking about the join here, that is a lot of layers to get over, and they are overlocked as well. So it is hard going, but this machine seems to have no problems whatsoever with it. I don't think my normal machine would like it. Probably do it if I hand wheeled it over it, but this you can just sew over it. Really good. Anyway, I'm going to do that bar tacking, sew that crutch, and then that will finish how the fly is put in. Okay, so that is the fly all finished. I did bar tacking there, which has caught it all at the back there and there. Works perfectly. Nice and covered up. So when you're looking at a fly, how far out is it? Worst thing you can have is a fly where you can see the teeth like that, you know, before you've even got any pressure on it. Remembering that we'll have a waistband, but when we do that, the waistband will hold the top part, but when we do that in the bottom part, it's not going to be able to see the zip. So what we've gathered from this, I do not like to pull seams out, especially in heavy denim. I don't like the zip installation or the fly installation where you unpick the seam, which is what the ginger jeans have you do. And with the Ash jeans, I really like the installation, but I just feel it unnecessary to have to unpick that crutch seam, which you can see, this hasn't even been pressed, worked out perfectly without taking it out. It's all really neat on the inside. Don't need to pull it out. Don't need to pull it out. And it all worked out perfectly. It is a different way of doing it. And because you're not doing the pockets straight away and you're working on the front, and this is not stabilized yet, sort of need to be a bit careful with your pieces. It wouldn't matter if you did it in different order. You could have easily already installed the pockets and still do the fly the same way. So my preferred method is my made up method, which is basically the Ash jeans way, but when it comes to that crutch seam, I leave it closed. Or why are you closing it in the first place? I just don't see that it's necessary. It's not going to give you a better finish, a less of a finish. It's still going to work out exactly the same. I don't get it. I think in the ginger jeans, and it may not necessarily be with jeans that are non-stretch, so jeans that are 100% cotton, no stretch whatsoever in it, may not damage that fabric, but I think it's damaged just that front edge of the fabric's be a little bit furry in spots. And it was never under duress. I mean, it was never like you'd been wearing them like that or anything, where you might pull out a seam, something you've been wearing and the seam is a bit ruined. So I'm just not one for sew that up, install this, then take that out. You should be able to do it without doing that. So that was just another way of sewing in a fly. Remembering that that is going to wrap around under your body and it's going to be perfectly fine without having ever been removed. So I just can't understand the logic behind it. So that's my little take on the Ash jeans fly. It is my preferred method, but I don't unpick that crutch. Or I think in the white ones, I never sewed the crutch up in the first place. I probably read forward on the instructions, which would be very different from me. And I've made lots and lots of pants. Some tight, some loose, some in stretch fabric, lots in non-stretch fabric. And at the end of the day, you know, this bit has to wrap over from the left to the right if you're having it on technically the jeans side, which is the male side, but it's still my preferred side for jeans. And I have got one pair of pants. I think I've got it on the other side. So that's got to wrap over there. This fly has to be held down here. It's held in on the inside of this, and you've got a little shield behind it that is attached to your right hand side of your zip, so not your fly side but the other side, and it's only held down at the bottom sections to stop it from flapping around or flapping open. You don't want to have to put your hands down your pants to adjust it all the time. So this is what's making it stay in place. You can see that it's really, really neat on the inside. So I think there's better ways than unpicking things. That's all I'm saying. I must make a few more pairs of jeans. So what's that? Closet Core and Megan Nielsen. What's the other pants I make all the time? You'd think I'd remember if I make them all the time, wouldn't you? I know what they are, the Lander pants. Now the Lander pants have got an easy fly in them. I don't think I take any notice of the instructions of those anymore. Once you've sewn lots of pairs of jeans and lots of pairs of pants, you just have your own made up way of doing it. And as I said, I actually double sew my flies in. So even you know that I double sewed this one in on the fly side. I double sewed the other one in too. So just a matter of sewing it in where you're supposed to sew it in and then running another line down beside it. To me, it's just like a safety measure. Like the way you sew in zips into wedding dresses. When I sew a zip into a wedding dress, not just one pass. I often hand sew zips into wedding dresses, but it's also machine sewn on the outside edges. It's got lots of sewing on it to make sure that is not coming out. And that's a good quality zip. That's another thing I can say about sewing zips in jeans. Do not use a poor quality zip or a zip that is not zipping up and down perfectly when you first get it, because if you've gone to all that trouble, such a shame if your zip fails. And as you can see from, it's not the easiest thing in the world to replace a zip. It's really not. I have been known before to cut them out and stitch them back in, just because they're a pain. So when one of your friends says the zip in my jeans is broken, can you just quickly replace it? There is no quickly with a jean zip. So just remember that before you offer your services. Anyway, I hope that's helped you. If you need to ask me any questions, I can see the posties there. If you need to ask me any questions, please feel free to do so. Please like and subscribe. I also have a Ko-fi account. And don't forget about that last stitch tool making kit, because now I've cut that. This is the fly shape I prefer. Some of them are really, really wide, and I have used really much wider ones before, but they were on a pair of jeans that were for a much bigger person. So if you're looking at size 22 jeans, you need to make things proportionate. So you might have the fly top stitching be a little bit wider, just so that everything's more in proportion. And bigger back pockets, all those sorts of things need to be considered when doing jeans. So that's why in this kit, Johanna has got, yes, small, medium and large sizes for all the different pockets and for facings and for all those things, because you just need to try and make things as proportionate as possible. And probably somebody that took size 6 might have a narrower fly than this. I've never noticed that at the jeans in the shop, but I've probably never looked at size 6. So I must measure that next time I go. I must see if the smallest size I got, which is probably a 2, and a size 16 have got the same width in the top stitching on the fly. So the width between the top stitching would be the same, but I'm just talking about the actual width of the fly top stitching, what you would use as a template if it's wider. But that's all from me. Stop gabbling on. I will talk to you all soon. Remember, ask me any questions that you want. Now that video is completed, here are my completed jeans. Here is the fly. They've still got thread all over them. This looks orange in the screen, but it's actually like raspberry red. Really happy with them. Really happy with the top stitching. Absolutely love them. So I will pop in some photos. Even the button doesn't look that black. That's actually a black button that I put on it. I don't usually put studs and that sort of thing on very many of my clothes. But one thing I did do was I shortened the pocket bag. So this is the pocket bag. And it was actually supposed to come down further than this. Probably cut 5 centimeters off it, just so that I just prefer it not to be too long. I don't want it to go down onto the top of my legs because I can see it through my jeans. So, and when I first had them, I had made French seams, but realized then that the French seams actually looks bulkier from the outside. So just sewed it and then overlocked it off. This part here is a folded section, but the bottom part is finished off. So just used some visco I had left over from another project, from a dress, and used that as the pocket bag. But really, really happy with the jeans. Fit really nicely, very, very comfortable, great stretch, beautiful denim to work with, absolutely beautiful. And this is the denim from Weft and Warp in the ACT. Now, Weft and Warp were the fabric shop that are offering 24% discount on their denim for the month of April and May. Well, April's gone, so you've only got till the rest of May, and that's where I got this beautiful fabric from. It really is very good quality fabric, and it is made up into some beautiful jeans. Don't forget about Sew Autumn Denim. I have heard from lots of subscribers that they are going to be putting up their makes on the 31st of May on Instagram, but you are able to show us your makes along the way in Sew Autumn Denim Whip 2024, I think it is. I will put all of this in the description below. Don't forget about Sew Autumn Denim. Fantastic prizes. I hope you enjoyed the sew along. If you've got any questions about sewing the flies, just let me know. There are so many different ways to make it, but at the end of the day, you know how it's got to look. You know it's got to look like that on the front. You know that this side of the fly has what I call a fly shield behind it, and this side has the zip sewn in. So whatever way you choose to sew it in, that's up to you. I was just showing you the difference, and there are many, many more ways than those two ways of sewing it. If you want to know the closet core way, you can check out my video on the making of the ginger jeans, because that's got how closet core sew in the fly. I'm not sure if that's for every pair of their pants or if it's just for the ginger jeans, but this is an alternative way. It's my preferred way, I must say. I don't like the unpicked bit. I think it damages the front edge of your fabric. And in the ash jeans, this fly front here is a separate piece. I think in the pattern they're calling it the fly, but it is a separate piece. Now, in the ginger jeans, that piece, I think, from memory, and many other pairs of pants, that piece is added on. My personal preference is to sew this piece on. I like the look of that little ridge that you get in the very, very front. It's nice to top stitch. It really gives the top stitching something to bite into. And the only interfacing in these jeans is underneath the button and the buttonhole. So no interfacing in these, just under your button and buttonhole. So I hope you enjoyed finding out the difference. If you don't make jeans very often, or if you haven't made them from either of those companies, it's just something else to know. And there's heaps and heaps of videos on YouTube on how to sew jeans flies. And the last stitch also gives you quite a comprehensive fly tutorials and all that sort of thing on YouTube. So check it out, and you can get this pack for free going onto her site. And I really like the shape and width of this fly template. That's all from me. Please like and subscribe. Everyone have a great week. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.